You know that sinking feeling you get when your child just looks at you and says, "My tummy hurts"? Yeah, we've all been there. It's such a common part of being a parent, but that doesn't make it any less stressful. So in this explainer, we're going to cut through the noise and break down exactly what doctors say you need to know, what's really going on, what you should do, and, most importantly, how you can prevent the next round.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll identify that unwelcome guest that's causing all the trouble. Then, we'll unmask the three main culprits behind these infections. After that, and this is super important, we'll talk about the signs that mean you need to seek help right away. Then, we'll map out the road to recovery, and finally, we'll focus on building a strong defense so you can hopefully avoid this altogether in the future.
All right, so it almost always starts with those three little words, doesn't it? My tummy hurts. But how do you tell if it's just a fleeting ache, maybe something they ate, or the very first sign of a real unwelcome guest setting up shop?
I bet these symptoms look all too familiar. Abdominal pain, diarrhea, fever, vomiting. When you see this combo, it's a pretty clear signal that your child's digestive system is under attack by something.
So what is actually happening inside their little body? Well, think of it like an invasion. Some kind of harmful germ, a bacteria, a virus, or a parasite, has managed to get into their gut. And now it's causing all sorts of damage and inflammation, which leads to all those miserable symptoms.
Okay, so if you want to fight these germs, you first have to know who you're up against, right? So let's meet the three main culprits.
So how do these little invaders even get in? Well, it's usually a simple 1-2 punch. Touch, then taste. A child touches a toy or a doorknob or another person who's sick. And then, you know what happens next. Those hands go straight into their mouth. Or they might eat or drink something that's already contaminated. It can happen so easily. Now, when we break down who these culprits are, there's a definite ringleader. Doctors are really clear about this. For kids, viruses are by far the #1 cause. Why? Well, because they spread like wildfire in places like daycares and playgrounds. Bacteria are the next most common cause, and then parasites, which are much less frequent. And when we talk about viruses, there is one name that every parent should know: rotavirus. This is the one that doctors are most concerned about because it is the leading cause of severe, dehydrating diarrhea and vomiting in young children. It's the big one that often leads to hospital visits.
So it's no surprise then who is most vulnerable. Young children are at the highest risk, and it's pretty simple why. Their immune systems are basically still in training. They haven't built up the defenses that adults have, which makes them prime targets. Of course, the elderly and immunocompromised are also at risk, but kids are overwhelmingly the most affected group.
Okay, I need you to really tune in for this next section. It is incredibly important. Most of the time, these infections are rough, but they pass in a few days. But sometimes they can get dangerous fast. Knowing the difference between "we can handle this at home" and "we need to go to the doctor now" is a critical skill for any parent.
These are the things we are trying to avoid at all costs. The biggest, most immediate danger is severe dehydration, but it can also lead to an electrolyte imbalance. That's when the body's essential salts get all out of whack, messing with how everything functions. And in the absolute worst-case scenario, the infection can escape the gut and get into the bloodstream. That's a condition called sepsis, and it is life-threatening. It can even lead to kidney failure.
So, this is your decision-making checklist. On the left, you've got symptoms you can probably manage at home with care. But if you see any of the warning signs on the right, I'm talking diarrhea that goes on for more than 2 days, a high fever, any blood in the stool, or those classic signs of dehydration like a dry mouth, no tears when they cry, or sunken eyes, you do not wait. You seek medical help immediately.
And this quote from Dr. Huang Ding Theng just drives that point home. It's so easy for us to think, oh, it's just a little stomach bug, but we can't be too casual about it. As the doctor says, these infections can become very dangerous, so paying close attention to those warning signs is absolutely vital.
Okay, enough of the scary stuff. We've identified the problem, we know the warning signs, now let's talk about the solution. How do you help your little one get back on their feet? Welcome to the road to recovery. Doctors usually break down the treatment plan into 4 key pillars. Number 1, above everything else, is rehydration. Then, if needed, comes medication. And I have to stress, this should only be what a doctor prescribes. Third is supporting the digestive system itself. And finally, getting them on the right diet to help them heal.
I'm going to say it again because it's that important. Rehydration is everything.
When a child has vomiting and diarrhea, they're losing not just water, but also essential salts and minerals called electrolytes. Plain water isn't enough to replace those. You need a special oral rehydration solution like Orasol, and you have to mix it exactly as directed. And for babies, the absolute best thing you can do is just keep breastfeeding.
Now, what about food? The golden rule here is to be gentle on their gut. You want to stick to simple, easy-to-digest foods. You know, the classic brat diet: bananas, rice, applesauce, toast. And you absolutely want to avoid anything that can make things worse, like sugary drinks, dairy, or greasy, fatty foods. The whole goal is just to give them nourishment without irritating their system any further.
So your child's feeling better, recovery is underway. Now for the final and honestly, the most empowering step, making sure this doesn't happen again. Let's talk about building a strong defense. When it comes to prevention, you need to think of basic hygiene as your family's superpower. It's not complicated stuff. We're talking frequent, proper hand washing with soap, sticking to the eat cooked, drink boiled rule, wiping down kitchen surfaces and your kids' toys. These simple habits are truly your strongest line of defense. I want you to just take a second and look at this number, 2,195. What is that? Well, that's the number of children around the world who die from diarrheal diseases, often caused by these exact same infections every single day. This is why prevention and hygiene aren't just good ideas, they're actual lifesavers.
And that brings us to the single most effective tool in our entire defense arsenal. The advice from Dr. Fan Not V is completely clear. Get your child the rotavirus vaccine. Since we know rotavirus is the #1 cause of the most severe cases in kids, vaccinating against it directly protects them from the biggest and most dangerous threat out there.
So there you have it. From the very first signs of trouble to the road to recovery and all the way to prevention, you are now equipped with a solid game plan. You know the culprits, you know the serious warning signs, and you know the best ways to build your defense. You have the knowledge to protect your family. So the only question left is your defense ready?
Health is the most precious gift. If this video helped you or someone you love, please like, subscribe, and share so more families can stay safe and healthy.